Mike, 2 words. Joe Paterno.
I've heard of him.
It seems like
he's
those
in all the
2
papers.
Words, hot button.
Well, he is a hot button.
We talk about it, you write about it, people have a reaction. The man is 83 years old, the only guy I've ever known there. I've grown up with this guy. You wrote a column last Sunday's paper that got a lot of reaction. Most of it you're telling me positive, but just people's comments in general, I'm curious about specific things people have said to you about JoePa. And first of all, in a nutshell,
a little background.
A little background. Backstory.
Beginning of this month, Joe went to Big Ten Media Days in Chicago, and we all saw it on television. He looked, speech was a little slurred. He had trouble talking. He looked old. He looked thin. It looked pretty bad. But then he did an interview on ESPN later, and we didn't sound so bad. Maybe, I kind of had a wait and see thing. But then I actually saw him at Penn State Media Day 2 weeks ago, and I thought he looked even worse, and really looked unhealthy. And did have trouble expressing himself, and did have trouble just reacting and moving around, and did, no question, has lost weight and looked thin, and just didn't look good at all, to the point where I was concerned about him doing the things that he needs to do to be Penn State's football coach. So I wrote a column about this, and it did actually get a lot of reaction, some reaction from outside of our area even, and most of it was positive. Most of it was on the order of, I see this too. You got to wonder how this thing is going to play out. There were a few people who were mad at me for doing this, but not many. The vast majority were very, very positive. So that's where we are. That's where we are with this, and of course, this is going to be an ongoing thing throughout the season. Where I know that I, as a guy covering the team, is going to be very closely watching his movements and the things he says and how tired he seems. I mean, it's just, you hate to, it's almost sad that it's come to this, but I think if you're realistic, you have to say it has come to this. That's what we're dealing with.
When you went to write this column, it was a column about just observations you made. You didn't have an opinion. But when you wrote this, what did you think reaction would be from people, and did you get that?
Well, one of the things that I wrote was, he did this press conference, and then we all go interview the players, and he goes home. So he got in his car and drove away. And the reaction that I had, just gut reaction to that, was, should he be driving a car? And so I wrote that. I wrote that it was my gut reaction. I was not seriously suggesting take away Joe's driver's license. I mean, it wasn't that. But I wasn't the only person to have that reaction. Mm-hmm. Other writers said the same thing, and so I did get some reaction from readers like, well, how dare you say he shouldn't be driving? He's 80, lots of people who are 83 years old. Well, it wasn't really about his age. That wasn't really the reason that I was saying he shouldn't be driving. So, I mean, there was that kind of stuff, and that had the effect of sending the message to people was, well, is that really how dire this situation is? And yeah, I think it is. I think it is potentially that dire.